Okay, aloha mai kako. My name is Kailie Aina, and I currently work with Leeward Haleakalā Watershed Restoration Partnership. We are one of a few different watershed partnerships here on Maui, and you guys will also get to hear from Allison and Kim, who also are working with different watershed partnerships. We all have really similar goals, which kind of, as Kiahi kind of touched on at the last part of his conversation, was that we need our forests and these environments to sustain not only the native plants but the native snails and invertebrates and all of those things. So really our goal with everything we do at Leeward is to just restore native forests to help these ecosystems thrive and take small steps to getting back to where they were back before all the different kinds of impact that we have faced today. This picture here is at what some of you might know as Kaupo Gap. This is the really upper slopes of Haleakalā, and it's one of the areas that we restore. Haleakalā Watershed Restoration Partnership is actually, as in the title, a partnership of about 11 landowners who all allow us to do restoration work on their lands. So it spans from kind of past Ulupalakua all the way to Kaupo. So my job is I am the outreach coordinator and also the cultural programs coordinator. So I work with teaching the community about why watersheds are important. I do community presentations. Similarly to this, in the past before COVID, we'd have a lot more in-person events, school presentations, helping to build curriculum, which is basically tools to teach our youth or our communities about watersheds, what they are, native species, and vahipana, storied about places, places that are important to us that once we're thriving with these native species. Also, part of my job is to lead, volunteer, and educational events. Like my prior presenters, unfortunately, a lot of those things have been put on hold during COVID, but we're hoping that next year we can start accepting volunteers again and get some of you guys out into the field. But mainly all of these things add up to teaching others about what our watersheds are and what they provide us, which they provide the environment, like I said, for other species. They also are a huge factor of conserving and collecting water. As you guys have all probably seen in these past couple days with the storm, there's been a lot of runoff and muddy waters all around the island. That's one thing that native forests work to prevent, is when you have a solid native forest, you kind of have a sponge rather than just dirt that the water will run off of and create these really bad erosion scars. So yeah, that's kind of what we do as a group, and my job is to kind of put our work out there and show others what we're doing. I kind of wanted to touch on what our field crew does as well. We were hoping one of them could join me today, but it's just me, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what they do. Basically, they do all the hands-on work for the restoration that we do in Leeward Haleakalā, such as fence maintenance, outplanting native plants, controlling invasive species such as pigs and goats, and weeds. We also do some data collection, so we'll look at different areas and what's affecting them, how much water we are getting in restored areas versus non-restored areas, just collecting all kinds of data. We also monitor, native plant populations. So older trees that we, call maybe kupuna trees, the ones that have been there for many years that provide us seeds. We just monitor them and keep them healthy. And we do seed collecting, which is a really important part of the job. We try to, with how diverse our native forests are, you might have one native plant like in Ohia on Haleakalā that is different from the ohia you might find on West Maui Mountains. So we really try to, collect seeds from our restoration areas, and then we outgrow them with partners like Native Nursery, and then we return them to where they came from. So a big part of this field work is camping, as Kiahi showed you, the fun environments that you might get to camp in, and heliops, which is a really exciting part of the job, which is getting in the helicopter. This next slide just has some pictures of, again, field work. So we'll collect seeds like those bright red beautiful willy willy seeds on the bottom left there, and then we go out into these really hard to reach areas via helicopter. All our supplies are also airlifted. Sometimes in this middle picture here with the yellow helicopter and the little container there, we even drop seed balls, which is basically clay mixed with different types of seeds. And that's one of our tactics to getting native plants back into areas that we can't even access ourselves regularly. We also have, again, a lot of fence maintenance. There's many miles of fence and lots of ungulates like boars that are regularly destroying them. So that's a huge part of the job if you're on the field crew, is continuously doing fence checks and maintaining those so that the areas we are restoring can keep healthy. And so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about, oops, sorry, my screen is lagging a bit. There we go. How to get started. So really, how I got started was just by volunteering. I think it's a huge piece of how to get into the field of conservation. There's a lot of groups here on Maui. Particularly, I want to give my thanks to Awahi Restoration Project. They were a really substantial role in me getting into conservation. And I actually started by doing my senior project with them and just reaching out to them and saying, hey, I am interested in native plants. What can I do to support you guys? How can I get involved? And, just coming up with different ways to get your foot in the door. Also, a great opportunity is internships. Serene shared some really great programs that are available. And there's also, Kupu, which is an AmeriCorps organization that also takes interns. And even nowadays, social media, if you are on social media and you follow groups that are doing restoration, they will often post about internships that come from, across the board of different opportunities and different types of opportunities. Really, I encourage you all to make connections. This is a great start, being in these kinds of presentations and just reaching out to those professionals that you feel that you're connected to their work, and just, staying connected so that when opportunities do arise, you're right there at the top of their list to, contribute. And also pursuing a degree. When I was in high school, I didn't necessarily think that there was a degree that really, interested me, but I didn't know that there's all these different opportunities. There's natural resource management, there's ethnobotany, which is the study of plants, and even just getting a degree in education, or my degree is in, human relations. So there's always a place in conservation for you if you're interested. It's just a matter of, taking the first step to make those connections. Some of what led me to where I am today, again, Awahi, I volunteered with them for many years, and that was my first job in conservation. And then through the college, I participated in a few field schools and was able to make connections with some really awesome professors. One of them being Dr. Kiana Frank on Oahu, who is a microbiologist. And just, it was actually just through, making those connections and asking her, hey, if you're ever on Maui and you need a field assistant, I'll just take samples and walk around in the mud and, sample soil for you, and just being willing to do those little jobs. and just stepping in, even if you're not have the most background. A lot of people understand that with conservation, it's hard to have a lot of background when you first start. So just being willing to learn is a huge piece. So lastly, I just want to say mahalo nui to everyone who attended this event. And if you want to stay connected with me, there's my email at the bottom, outreach@lhwrp.org. And you can also follow us on our social media platforms, where we will continue to post about different educational or volunteer opportunities in the upcoming future. But I look forward to each of you, pursuing a degree in conservation or just, reaching out and staying connected. So mahalo nui.